mate. We've made it to the beautiful Wheeler Island, part of the family group, only a couple of kilometres off Mission Beach.
It's unbelievable how close it is to the mainland, yet you could be anywhere in the world. You know, the turtles poking their heads up, the rainforest coming down to the fringing reef, the eagles that welcome us on entry. Mate, it's magic.
Let's call it ours for the day, mate.
Beauty. Incredible what you'll find washed up on the beach. That's the taste of summer, isn't it?
Fellow councillors, staff and residents viewing via live stream, good morning all and welcome. I acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of the land on which this meeting is being held and pay my respect to the elders, past, present and emerging. Councillors, do we have any apologies? No? Move on to the declaration of conflict of interest. Conflict of interest, including perceptions of conflict of interest. Please use this opportunity to make public any material personal interest and or conflicts of interest, real or perceived, in respect of the items in the agenda. Councillors should use this opportunity to disclose and or comment on other councillors and or staff interests in accordance with the Act and the regulations. Any declaration of conflict, councillors? Councillor Purvin.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. I declare a conflict of interest in the confidential report item 8.1. I believe I may have a conflict of interest in this item as I'm a close associate of someone who may have a financial gain from this decision and also act as godparents to my son. So I will not partake and I will leave the room when this item comes to the table.
Thank you, Councillor Purvin. Councillor Farinelli.
Mr Mayor, I also have what I believe to be a conflict of interest in confidential report 8.1, request for COVID sewerage charge concession, in that I did work for the business that stands to benefit from this decision prior to my election. So I too will be leaving the room during discussions and voting on this item.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further conflicts to declare? I'll take that as a no. We move on to item 1, confirmation of the minutes. Would somebody move that the previous minutes are a true and accurate record, please? Moved by Councillor Purvin, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Any business arising from the previous minutes? No business arising? Okay. We'll move on to item 3, economic activation and tourism, and the CCR Tourism Monthly Report will be presented by Mr Blanchett. Welcome.
Morning, Mayor, morning, councillors.
Morning.
Morning, Mr Blanchett.
And tourism report for August. Taking the report as read, I just started the back end this morning. Morning all. Starting with the figures in the tourism report for August. Just wanted to highlight a few things in the figures. Obviously we're going through a unique season with COVID impacting tourism and borders closed. So just a quick reference that you'll notice our international numbers, which last year for the year were around 24% of visitors, are down to 5% for international, and the weight has shifted on to domestic travel, obviously in Queensland. So just those numbers highlight the impact of the international travel shutting down, and that would affect our Mission Beach Visitor Information Centre more than the others, because they tend to get 50% international visitors, 50% domestic. We're seeing less numbers into the visitor centres as well for these 2 months, which is logical given the situation. However, the visitors we are seeing, 3,800 plus, are very, very important conversations in this environment. The moment they're in front of our team are the destination, and that's the opportunity to convert them to stay longer and to see our experiences. So while the numbers are down, they're probably more valuable than any other year, those conversations we are having with the tourists right now. The other figure I was just going to show you, the Tully RV parking, we're actually about 30 ahead, just over 30 ahead for the same 2 months last year. So given the situation we've got this year, that's fairly positive with the new site, that we haven't lost numbers with the impact of COVID. And I think in general, councillors probably noticed most of our caravan parks are having fairly good custom this season so far. Moving into the report itself, the first topic was the Cardwell mountain bike project. This has been progressing, took some big steps in progress in recent months. I guess the main feature of our work at this stage has been to work with the Girramay traditional owners, and we met with their board early in the month, and we've taken the time to really ensure they're comfortable in partnering with council and the community leaders on the mountain bike project. The response has been gradual but very positive, and Girramay, in fact, at a community meeting that the community group held, which was to launch basically announce World Trails and Glenn Jacobs as being the contractors for this project, who happen to be the best company in the world for designing and researching and developing trails. We're very fortunate to have Girramay do a welcome to country on the evening, which is a very nice sign and a nice message for everyone in the room. The community meeting was very well attended. Councillor Barry Barnes was at the evening. He may have more to add to that.
No, Richard, you've got it covered pretty well there. I'd just like to further say we're so lucky to have Glenn Jacobs on board. He would be the best in the world for designing that track and getting it up and going, as he is a member of the World Hall of Fame for the mountain bikes. So to have somebody of that calibre in our and also it's so nice to see local media and state media starting to get on board with the Cardwell mountain bikes and bring it on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. He's certainly the only Australian in the World Hall of Fame for mountain biking. The community are also very pleased that they won the opportunity, because their concept has been based around conversations of a mountain bike park in Derby, Tasmania. World Trails actually designed and built that facility, so the community group are very positive about them. The other topics in the report this month include events. While Targa was held in the weekend, from most accounts a very positive event. There's a lot of community actually out watching. There'll be a full report coming in future on the Targa event after we've done an event debrief and got the reports back from Targa, and feedback is still coming in, so a report will follow on that next month. Local events, again, I just mentioned events that are targeting tourists. We know they're targeting tourists because they're on the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse, so there's a short summary of the events and markets that are using that free opportunity right now. I do need to mention one event, unfortunately, has cancelled since this report, the Innisfail Game Fishing Tournament. But again, positive to see other events still progressing, given the challenges for event organisers in this environment this year. I've mentioned a few notes from local businesses talked to recently over the last month. And while it's still a tough environment, there's still a bit of a mindset of having to survive, particularly through the summer season. You'll see from the notes that in general people have been busy for August and July, and there's a variety of different accommodation types that have contacted there. We're seeing very good innovation from businesses, and the level of challenges is different business to business. So if it's of interest to councillors, I think I can capture notes as we're talking to businesses and regularly report them monthly, such as this. There's interesting ones like the Eco Bananas, who are targeting tourism for the future, and we're discussing opportunities with them and TCT in that regard. And Mission Beach Resort, who has been very busy over recent weeks, and their innovation was introducing a boat washdown. Simple innovations like this they've obviously highlighted that's a target market for them. They've put a service in, and they're seeing that they're getting the customer that they're after. And the final note was we with Councillor Farinelli and Adam Sandler. We had some strategic meetings in Cairns recently, and Councillor Farinelli may like to talk to that.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchard, and through the Mayor. I was really excited to be in, actually we had an opportunity to attend the Queensland Tourism Industry Council session in Cairns, and we thought we'd make the most of our time in Cairns, and Mr. Blanchard and Mr. Sadler put together a few really key meetings for me with some strategic people in this tourism area, and specifically around the area that I'm very passionate about, and that's agritourism for the Cassowary Coast. Needless to say, following that day, and to steal a statement from Mr. Sadler, we're now on the radar, the Cassowary Coast. I've had a vision for agritourism on the Cassowary Coast for many years, and I'm very thankful to Mr. Sadler for helping me realise some of the visions that I've got. Upon speaking to Mark Olsen from TTNQ, Angelica from DAF, and my speaking up at the Queensland Tour Industry Council Board event in Cairns, became quite evident that they too see what I see, and agritourism is now being portrayed by key bodies as one of the ways to bring Queensland out of the COVID pandemic. Dr. Georgina Davis, who is the CEO of the Queensland Farmers Federation, presented a policy for agritourism on the 20th of May this year to Minister for Agriculture, Industry Development and Fisheries, Honorary Mark Furner. The aim of the policy was to support projects that will encourage more tourists, domestic and international, when they eventually come back to us, to visit, to stay longer, and to spend more money in rural and regional Queensland areas, and assist farmers to build and diversify their income streams and be more resilient. The report identified agritourism as an important sector of the Australian economy that can provide direct and indirect benefits to the Australian agribusinesses and regional economies. Food and wine experiences are being increasingly sought after as consumers desire to better understand where their food comes from, learn how it is produced, and experience the ultimate in low food miles by enjoying produce where it is produced. More broadly, agritourism also allows regional economies to showcase what's good about the region, its unique growing conditions and natural resources, and provides a visitor draw card from which other regional tourism businesses and experiences can benefit. From a local government perspective, the report identifies that planning support will be required to permit tourism infrastructure to be constructed on farm, and that agritourism must be classified as an agricultural activity under local and state planning laws. Agritourism experiences are being increasingly sought after as consumers desire to create a direct connection and better understand where their food comes from, learn how it is produced, and experience the low food miles, as I said before. Something that's really important to me also is that agritourism also offers succession planning opportunities for farming families. Post-COVID, there's no doubt that our state, country, and the world will have changed. And something that's very important to me is farming for the future. We need to open primary producers' eyes to the opportunities before them. We need to retain young people on farms and in agricultural communities. The young people are the next farmers. So let's invest in the next generation of our farming. The flow-on effect will benefit local businesses, cafes, restaurants, promoting local product, local stories, and our local food heroes. Cultural diversity is another thing that I see as something that we can share through food. We can develop a market for times during natural disaster when we are cut off from the south, and we can create relationships with our neighbouring regions through produce sharing. There's still a long way for us to go in this area, but as I said, we are on the radar now. We are speaking with key people. We have a meeting coming up with the CEO of the Queensland Farmers Federation because Mr. Sadler has kindly shared my vision with quite a few people, and they're very excited to talk further. We're still in discussion stages and with our tourism department and with Mr. Sadler. And once we've identified some opportunities, I look forward to bringing those back to council to seek approval when the time is right. But very exciting for our region, and we really are where we need to be at the moment, and we're being listened to.
Thank you, Councillor. That's the report.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Blanchett? Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, I haven't got a question. I've just got to commend Renee down at the Tully Visitors Information Centre. I went down there the other day and spent a bit of time there, and she absolutely blew me away with her wealth of knowledge for this region, and the amount of people that went through the centre while I was there was mind-blowing. I never thought for 1 minute that many people would go through there in a matter of 2 hours. So well done to Reen. And I also like to mention that I did watch the Targa race up the back of Silkwood, and there was probably 15 or 20 people that joined me there, and we spoke to some of the guys that were racing, and they're pretty excited about coming back. They loved it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for recognising Reen and Tully. All the team are pretty passionate and proud, and you obviously heard that when they're talking to the customers, and that's the conversion moment that I was talking about.
Any further questions for Mr. Blanchett? If not, thanks, Mr. Blanchett.
Thank you.
Yeah, would you move? Councillor Farrenley moves. Councillor Chewy seconded. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to item 4.1. The succession planning, and this will be presented by CEO Mr. Gott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and with your permission, in my experience, historically, recruitment of a chief executive officer is typically considered to span about a 3-month period, which includes advertising, consideration of applications, shortlisting of applicants, interviewing, reference checking, criminal history checking, drug and alcohol testing, and a number of other procedures. In the case of an internal appointment, should that occur, the backfilling of the substantive position can provide for further delays whilst removing the notice periods in some cases, however allowing time for replacement and then time for relocation, and taking into account a potential significant backfill process. That being said, in my recent experience before being employed by this council, I conducted recruitment processes for replacement of a number of CEOs and found that in today's environment, that 3-month schedule is significantly insufficient. Apropos of the above, I think that it's very likely that COVID-19 complications may well further impact upon the process, and possibly Australia's first recession in 29 years may have some impact also. In respect to the complexities associated with Council's current initiatives, including but by no means limited to asset rationalisation, production of our services manual, our intention to enhance our relationships with First Nation groups through ILUAs and possibly other mechanisms post the COVID recovery, providing more rigour again to the budgetary process, and various other factors Council may or may not deem it reasonable to provide for a somewhat longer handover period at Council's discretion, of course. In preparing this report, I've consulted with yourself, Mr. Mayor, and People and Culture. The appointment of a Chief Executive Officer is a legal requirement. Quote, a local government must appoint a qualified person to be its Chief Executive Officer, and I can confirm that in providing this report, Council has given due consideration to legislation including the Human Rights Act. In summary, as the Council is quite likely aware, my contract determines on the 4th of September 2021. The contract which is in place provides that at least 7 months before determination of my contract, I shall advise the Council in writing if I'm seeking reappointment to the position, and at least 6 months before the 4th of September 2021, the Council is to advise me of its intention to offer further appointment or otherwise. In the interests of providing this Council with its best opportunity to allow for the most effective and reasonable opportunity for succession planning, I take the opportunity to advise considerably earlier than required that I will not be seeking reappointment to the position. I will nevertheless continue to contribute my very best efforts to succession planning, business continuity and recruitment, and obviously continue with my very best efforts in my role. My recommendation, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, is that Council consider providing for a somewhat lengthier recruitment process for the engagement of its next CEO, that Council consider calling quotations for an appropriate recruitment executive search firm, which would involve, of course, requesting at least 3 quotations for the sake of transparency, and in accordance with Council's procurement policy, that Council consider broadening the process to contemplate a national search, insofar it's important to look outside of Council's current boundaries, and if Council is so minded to contemplate the duration of a handover period, if indeed there is any at all, according to Council's discretion, that the incoming Chief Executive Officer can be fully, reasonably and effectively briefed. To this end, my recommendation continues to provide that Council may consider delegating to its Mayor and or his delegate or delegates the opportunity to liaise with Council's People and Culture function through myself to identify recruitment options, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gott. Any questions for the officer in relation to that report? Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say a few words. I think I speak on behalf of many of us. I'd like to thank Mr. Gott for giving us so much time for his future plans. I've been involved in selecting a new CEO previously, and I can tell you it can be a long, drawn-out process. A lot of people don't realise, but Mr. Gott is currently one of the longest-serving CEOs in Queensland. It's 38 years to be exact. And in 2005, he was awarded a service medal for outstanding service to local government. And during his time with the CCRC, he's implemented an asset management plan and has changed the shape and dynamics of our operational structure and also dealt with COVID-19. So thanks very much. And I know everyone is looking forward to the future for Mr. Gott and also the CCRC. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further comments, councillors?
If I may, Mr Mayor, thank you, Councillor Barnes, for your kind comments. It's very kind of you indeed.
Just a comment about the second last dot point, the handover period. There is a little bit of banter on social media that we'll have 2 CEOs for 6 months. Again, that is not correct. What that dot point refers to, at the point of time the new CEO starts, the current CEO, James Gott, will sit down and talk about current policy, direction, and all other relevant issues, and there will be a handover. That's normal practice. A handover is normal practice. There'll be no 2 CEOs being funded by ratepayers for a 6-month period. In 12 months' time, 7 councillors will make the decision about the duration of the handover. So we're not voting on any 6-month contract at all today. It's simply a part of the resolution in the succession planning. I just wanted to clarify social media banter. Okay, do we have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to item 5.1, Delivery Services Update, and Mr Sanders will deliver this report. Welcome, Mr Sanders.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors.
Morning, Mr Sanders.
Bit of a hard act to follow, that one. But this morning I have just the update, our monthly update for the delivery services team, progress update for our capital works program. And I apologise that we didn't provide a report last month. We would have had a lot of TBAs given our financial changeover and inputting of new projects into our finance system and accommodating carryovers, etc. So the delivery services team spent the months of July and August reviewing externally funded projects and scheduling the adopted capital works program to develop a balanced program that reflects funding priorities, community expectations, and considering our resource allocations for the 2021 financial year. So just starting back at our key achievements from the month of July, we had the completion of the Clifford Road project and Downing Street Sealing Urban Roads project. Then moving through to later July and August is the continuation of our Meena Creek Major Culvert project, where we are replacing 3 major culverts along that stretch of road. And the commencement of our Grace Street footpath renewal in Innisfail, commencement of our regional reseal program, which is the commencement of was delivered in-house in relation to all of our prep works, shoulder grading, patching, weed spraying, etc. We also commenced our regional guardrail renewal program after a bit of an incident on the old Tully Road, Big Mariah Creek Bridge, where we had an incident where the car wiped out a lot of our edge restraint in that instance there. So that allocation is there for renewal in those situations where we can't recoup the costs for that when there's no one left on site. We commenced our external works program for TMR in relation to the regional reseal prep works, which is substantially complete along Tully Mission Beach Road. You'll see some significant patching there in preparation for the final sealing. We've commenced our unsealed road resheeting at Spanos Road around McCutcheon Silkwood there, and we have advertised our tender for our Bryant Street footpath renewal, the first of 3 footpath renewals in the Tully CBD planned for this year. Attachment 2 provides photos of some of these achievements there in relation to Downing Street, Clifford Road, and the bridge there at Mariah Creek. Moving on to our priorities for September, the continuation of our the commencement of our 5 ways roundabout sealed road renewal project, and I do apologise for some delay that we have had there in the transition between the 2 projects. There was an initial project there for our urban stormwater renewal, which is the subsurface drainage. That crew has obviously been moved on to our Meena Creek major culverts given the weather and to try and take advantage of the dry weather and get those major culverts in, and we are anticipating that the sealed road renewal works will commence within the next week out there. We are continuing our major project, that Ann Road and Dalakey Road intersection upgrade, with our culverts complete, our pavement works in in progress at the moment and our sealing and our asphalt booked for the end of September, weather permitting. We're hoping to continue Meena Creek major culvert upgrades, and we are commencing the contractor component of our regional reseal program. So you will see some contractors in the region from about the 17th of September completing our about $600,000 to $700,000 worth of bitumen resealing works. We are also in preparation for some of our sealed road renewal projects, undertaking geotechnical investigations and finalising pavement designs for some of our sealed road renewal projects. And we have, all bar the final seal, completed the Grey Street footpath renewal, which was our first trial at the new finish within the Innisfail, what's proposed for the Innisfail CBD footpaths in accordance with our master plan. Not much rain to talk about, so moving on to financial. As of the 1st of August, we expended approximately $4.8 million, including commitments, which equates to about 19% of our budget. And from a project perspective, this is approximately 8% of our projects. There is a detailed attachment 1 which gives the individual status of each of our projects within the Delivery Services Capital Works program. So the recommendation is before Council that you acknowledge and note the results achieved to date and the future projections contained in this report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, Mr. Sanders, do you have any update on the intersection at Faluga, the TMR job?
Through the chair, sorry, not at the moment. I can take that on notice and
okay,
get back to you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Sanders? I'd just like to compliment your team on the state-of-the-art work that you produced on Clifford Road. I had a drive over it the other day, and 15 years on council, I haven't seen a better product produced beside that one. Really top-class effort, and the feedback from the community has been glowing in their praise for our workforce to turn out such a good product. So would you please pass that on to your team?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will definitely pass it on to the team and acknowledge their efforts throughout that project. We were truly up against it at several stages throughout that project, and we were working literally 24 hours a day for
under lights
for the last probably 4 to 6 weeks of that project. So, and notwithstanding some of the photos previously provided of the significant rainfall that we'd received trying to install major culverts there as well. So, thanks for the comments, and I'll pass that on to our team.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Sanders. And we just hope that some of the neighbouring properties on Clifford Road who have benefited by this beautiful job now develop those blocks of land and bring some more ratepayers into Cassowary Coast, because we've certainly delivered a good product in the lead up to their properties. Okay, would somebody move that be accepted? Councillor Millwood, seconded by Councillor Farinelli. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to item 5.2, the contract Bulgan Reservoir, and Mr. Smart will present this report. Welcome, Mr. Smart.
Morning, councillors. Just giving you an update on the progress with the Bulgan Reservoir. We have had some delays, COVID-related delays with the installation of the roof. Unfortunately, we haven't made as much progress as we had liked because our project supervisor, that's the installer of the reservoir, is based in New South Wales, and we are struggling to get a release from Queensland Health to let him back in, so that has had some delay on the project. It'll be essentially 2 weeks and 4 days since we got approval from the water regulator. The process is the application for exemption gets made to the initially to the water regulator, and then they pass on a recommendation to Queensland Health. So that's been 2 weeks and 4 days. Still no progress. So
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Any questions for the officer? Councillors? Okay, somebody move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item 5.3, petition, and Mr. Fisher will speak to this one.
Morning, councillors.
Morning.
Mr. Fisher. I need to apologise first of all, councillors. A typo in this report, or throughout this report, not referring to Mission Circle, rather Mission Drive at South Mission Beach. So certainly the rest of the information in the report is accurate. It's just that drive instead of circle. So. Councillors, we received a petition from some residents at South Mission Beach regarding the death of a cassowary there. It was signed by about 20 people. And following that unfortunate incident, we undertook a traffic count there on the street. What that count showed was around 210 vehicles a day, and very, very good compliance with the 50 km/h speed limit. In terms of a local street, if all of our local streets had statistics like that, it would be fantastic. So I guess that's a recognition that road has a bit of a meander. There's often cars parked out on that street as well. So typically, you know, as the statistics show, people are driving at quite appropriate speed through there. I did speak to the Queensland Police officer in charge down at Mission Beach regarding the incident to understand whether they, what their investigations found, and I guess that led to a lot of reports, but no real firm evidence there in regards to any type of road-related factors or other things that could be attributed to that incident, or for them enable them to undertake a prosecution. Just also for information, we did receive a letter from another resident who was quite concerned about the prospect put forward by in the petition, and stated a number of good reasons as why council might not want to close off Mission Drive, including access. I guess the main one would be around access in following a disaster. If we end up trees over the main road, this road offers another way into South Mission Beach. I guess one thing that I guess we need to acknowledge is that whenever we have people and wildlife living in close proximity to one another, unfortunately collisions are almost inevitable. And so in looking at this issue, I've consulted with Main Roads, who have got an investigation underway. They're about halfway through, and they're really trying to delve into the science and to understand. There's been numerous trials of different technology, different treatments to help improve on this matter, and they're really delving into the science of that so that any public money that gets spent can be spent in a way that really leads to outcomes. There's been so many trials, but never a collation of the effectiveness of that. With knowing that that's 50% complete and internal review being done by Main Roads, what I am recommending to council is that we just hold tight on this one at the moment, noting the good statistics there in terms of traffic, and wait to see the outcome of that strategy before we commit to anything, so that anything we do commit to is based on a scientific approach, and make sure we're spending ratepayers' money in a way that yields the maximum benefit. Hence the recommendation before you. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any questions for the officer? Somebody move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Millwood, seconded by Councillor Dewey. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Move on to item 5.4, Tully Multi-Purpose Complex, and Mr. Fisher will present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillors, just our monthly update on the Tully Grandstand. I guess we have got our contractors back on site today. They've still got some works to finish off. They will be there today and tomorrow, and I expect they'll be back again next week doing a little bit more work to finish that off. I guess one thing to note is we're getting close to the end of this project financially. It would appear that we're going to be able to deliver this project under budget. I would also just note that because of the way the funding has been attained for this project, we do need to share the savings with our other fellow levels of government, so they're not entirely council savings, but nonetheless a good result, and I believe we've delivered a value for money outcome there. There is another game of use of the facility planned for this weekend. And I guess just to note, in the report there I mentioned that the official opening would be in now likely to be in late October. We've actually heard that that's now going to be early November. So the facility will continue to be utilised. We are working to develop some fees and charges in the interim, while we do hope to get a different type of long-term management arrangement. We do want to be able to utilise the facility more broadly within the community, so we'll be bringing a report to council shortly about some fees and charges for the use of the facility for other groups. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions for the officer? Just a question about Saturday night's game. Are you cooking the steak burgers?
I will be eating the steak burgers. I promised my children that they were disappointed they couldn't come to the last game, so I'm taking my family and we'll be eating steak burgers this time.
Right.
So
I'll be sitting beside you, haven't I, mate?
Socially distanced.
Hey, absolutely.
All right.
Somebody move the recommendation, please. Yep. Sorry, Mr. CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Without labouring the point, I notice in the photographs that there's no centre circle, goal box, penalty spot or an 18-yard box. I'm just concerned as to what's happening with that pitch, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Millwood wants to respond to that.
You're in the wrong state.
Planet. Somebody move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Millwood, seconded by Councillor Dewey. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Move on to item 4.5, Infrastructure Services Report. Mr. Goodman. Welcome, Mr. Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors. Mr. Goodman. Councillors, the report in front of you is the Infrastructure Services Capital Report for August 2020. I think I'm pleased to say that the team have delivered on my promise of filling in a lot more dates than I was able to present to you at the last meeting. So I thank them for that. If the go to the graph on page 53, you can see that from there we've made a pretty solid start to the financial year, certainly within the commitments that we've made. I do note though that within the transport category, there's some of those projects that are not yet, I'll have to tidy that up, there's some of those projects are not yet within the body of the report, and they are mostly the DRFA projects, externally funded, and those that Council has recently awarded those contracts to. So that's, if you're looking for the detail on that, unfortunately it's not there, and I'll make sure that that's sorted out in the next report. Apart from that, councillors, the major projects identified as complete or practically complete in August 2020. There's a few of them there, but I guess the Showgrounds Grandstand construction that Mr. Fisher just talked about is a highlight, but also the Charles, Grace and Emily Street water main renewal within Innisfail. Apart from that, councillors, I don't need to or intend to dwell on any individual projects, but I or the team that are available here should be able to answer any of your questions that you've got.
Any councillors want to question the officer on the report? No? Okay, somebody move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Pervin, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to planning, item 6.1, development application, and Mr. Thomas will present this report. Welcome, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Council.
Mr. Thomas.
Through the Chair, as per page 62 of the agenda, Council is in receipt of an application for a material change of use for a non-resident workforce and tourist park less than 50 sites within the Environmental Management and Conservation Zone on land described as Lot 382 on RP 868975, situated at 485 East Faluga Road, East Faluga. The site currently operates as Hillside Caravan Park, which offers various styles of accommodation, including single ensuite rooms, cabins and campsites. The caravan park also works with nearby local farms to provide accommodation for predominantly overseas farm workers. The existing facilities on site include 20 caravan sites, 15 cabin sites, outdoor barbecue area, amenities block and gym. The subject site contains existing lawful use rights for a tourist park within existing buildings on the site, which allows only for short-term holiday purposes. The development application seeks to make lawful the non-resident workforce accommodation aspect that is currently operating within these 15 cabins to allow for longer-term stays, and will also involve a small expansion to the existing tourist park use to allow for 3 unpowered tent and RV sites. The application was impact accessible and therefore public notification was carried out. One properly made submission was received by Council. The application triggered referral to the State Assessment Referral Agency as a referral agency. Due to the small-scale development on site, there will be no impacts to the environmental and ecological values of the subject site. The development is deemed generally to comply with the provisions of the Cassowary Coast Regional Council Planning Scheme, with no major non-compliance raised during the assessment process. The proposal is consistent with the existing use rights of the site since 1976, and therefore is recommended for approval subject to reasonable and relevant conditions. Happy to answer any questions Council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any questions for the officer on that one? Okay, if there's no questions, somebody move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that brings us up now to general business. Any general business items, councillors? Councillor Chewy.
Good morning through you, Mr Mayor. Just a shout out to St John's School at Silkwood. They're doing a clean up of Curramine Beach today. The students, Councillor Baines and myself were invited. Unfortunately we couldn't attend, but just a shout out to the young people that are taking care of our environment. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chewy. That's noted. Any further general business? Councillor Farinelli.
Mr Mayor and councillors, just further to the previous basically comments that I've made with regards to agritourism, there was one other online event that Mr Sadler, Ms Zaffron and I attended on behalf of council, which was a discussion over a paper that was written by the Next Economy called What Queensland Wants, Regional Perspectives on Building a Stronger Economy. Just wanted to share with councillors just some information from that report from the Next Economy, which also points to economic opportunities, including potential for creating good lasting regional jobs and stimulate diversity and regional economy as a whole, rather than just one industry. And there were some interesting points in that report with regards to developing local food markets and developing regional capacity to process agricultural produce and waste products. It's a really good report that I will send out to councillors. We had a really good discussion on that forum, and we've made some good contacts as well to help us work forward in this area. And some of the key points they make is protecting and improving agricultural productivity, food and agricultural processes, Indigenous land management programs. So they're just a few things. So there's a lot of room to be moving in that area. Just wanted to add that on top of the previous report, because that was something we attended recently. So to just one other item that I wanted to also bring to councillors, thanks to Councillor Chewy, I felt it was relative. Today is Are You OK Day. Thank you, Councillor Chewy, for letting me know that. Councillor Millwood for letting me know that. I think this is a really important cause, and it's something that's out there, and I think has been spoken about quite strongly in the community. When I had a look up on their website, they actually have a part within this Are You OK around workplace champions. Does anyone know of our stuff? Sorry, this has just come on me. Do we actually have a workplace champion for Are You OK within the Cassowary Coast? Have we ever looked at this?
No.
Yeah, no, through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe we have a designated champion, as it were. We provide significant assistance to employees through people and culture, and through a distributed function, and through an employee assistance scheme, but we don't have a nominated workplace champion. So thank you, Councillor Farinelli. It's something that I'll place before the EMT to investigate further.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. It's really important, I believe, as leaders of this organisation, to look at this Are You OK and workplace. And I mean, there's a lot of resources around here, and it says Are You OK has released new resources to encourage business leaders, owners, employees to build an Are You OK culture in their workplace so that everyone feels safe, supported and encouraged. It's very timely, because I think we as leaders of this organisation, which is what I see us as councillors as being leaders of an organisation, we have a responsibility, I believe, to make sure we feel safe, encouraged and supported. Something I haven't really felt recently in the way I've been spoken to by when cameras are not running. And as such, I think we need to look at a workplace champion for Are You OK? And I think we also need to look at some training for counsellors about what is acceptable behaviour even when the cameras aren't running, and the responsibility we have as a result of our code of conduct in the way we should speak to people and treat people. And I think we all as councillors under our councillor code of conduct have that responsibility, and the Mayor as the chair of our meetings to also control behaviour of meetings. And I would like to propose that we receive some training in this area moving forward so that we can all be a little bit more respectful of each other's behaviour and comments at all times.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further general business? Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, I'd just like to raise that last Saturday I did make a brief attendance at the car wash that was held for the Tully Hospital Foundation, as did Councillor Chewy. I also would like to put out there that they are fundraising for an ultrasound machine for the local hospital, and if you direct to my council page, you'll see a link there that if anybody out there would like to make a donation, then that's where you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. Any further general business? Is Mr Horton still in the room? No, he's gone. Mr Goodwin might be able to answer the question. I noted the scrap metal dealer on the highway has had a major clean-up this morning, and there's a DA being prepared for that business. Could you give us an update on it, or would you prefer to leave it for Mr Horton? Okay. No problem. I'll catch up with him later. I just note that they've had... Is he there? Well, it'd be great if he could give us an update, yeah. Thank you. Mr Horton?
Mr Mayor.
I was just saying we drove past the scrap metal dealer on the highway this morning, and there's been a major clean-up there. Obviously, they've responded to talks you've had with the owner and manager. Could you give us an update just briefly, please?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through the chair. Council, at the current time, we have received a DA, a development application to assess for that site. We're currently going through the process under the DA rules to do that. At the current time, it's just been accepted, so we're currently in the position to request further information or deal with the application. It'll also have referral to SARA because it's situated on a state control road, so the referral will be done. At the current time, the clean-up on the site has been done out of the process of removal of those vehicles and wrecks that were situated there. That's an operational matter that the owner has done with the crushing of that site, Mr Mayor. From there, we'll continue to discuss with the owners and with the operator moving forward with the current DA, and we'll assess that on its merits and bring that to council at some stage. It is impact accessible, so we'll have a submission period on that moving forward. So once we get into position to provide a recommendation to council, we'll do so.
Thank you, Mr Horton. Any questions for Mr Horton on that particular matter? It is a pretty hot topic in the community. Okay, thanks, Mr Horton.
No problems. Thanks, council.
I have one general business item. It's in relation to a sporting champion in our Cassowary Coast region. Today I deliver council's public acknowledgement of Stephen Corica, local legend in the world of soccer. First off, I feel compelled to mention, for several years now, I've noticed the CEO appeared to lack the imagination, the soul and the artistic capacity to appreciate the great game of rugby league. He believes the round ball dominates the oval-shaped ball, and I've tried to tolerate this. Recently, he watched a game between the Raiders and the Bulldogs and told me that he enjoyed it. Sorry, Mr CEO, the secret is out. Anyway, what I say today is not about rugby league, but rather of one of our round ball heroes in our local boy, Stephen Corica. Stephen Christopher Corica played football for Australia and is the current manager of Sydney FC in the A-League. Steve was a technically gifted and skillful attacking midfielder during his playing career and known for being a hard man on the ball. He represented Australia more than 30 times with great distinction and captained Sydney FC to a domestic double. Steve became the 9th permanent head coach of Sydney FC when his tenure was officially announced on the 16th of May 2018. The announcement followed his ongoing 13-year involvement with the club, signing on as a player in the inaugural 2005-06 season. Sydney's unprecedented grand final triumph this year was the club's third in the past 4 seasons and adds a remarkable period of success for the team from Moore Park Road. The club also won 3 A-grade premierships and an FFA Cup crown since 2017. I have an autographed Steve Corica Australian strip framed in my office. Steve is from a local family with dad, mum and 2 brothers living here. I hereby move that Stephen Corica be recognised with appropriate signage to be produced and erected at entrances to Innisfail, and request a seconder, please. Seconded by Councillor Chewy. Are there any comments on that motion, councillors? Councillor Baines.
One short comment, and I'm not defending the CEO in any sense, but having a round ball hero coming out of Innisfail just shows the great diversity and sporting prowess of the Cassowary Coast region in all sports, no matter which state we're from or which game that we tend to follow. But it's an absolute testimony to Cassowary Coast punching above its weight again. So congratulations to Stephen, and I congratulate yourself, Mr Mayor, on bringing this motion forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Baines. Just put it in context, Cassowary Coast produces some outstanding international athletes, and previously Council has acknowledged Ashley Southern in Kabul, who played in the female water polo team at the Olympics. Paul Fleming is acknowledged with signage in Tully, an Indigenous boxer who got to the quarterfinals in the Olympics. And in Innisfail, of course, Billy Slater and Ty Williams have been acknowledged. The oval ball heroes of this world have been acknowledged. So today we have a local hero in the soccer world being acknowledged with signage. We have Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, we have a couple more up-and-coming oval ball young lads in Thomas Flegler and young boy Clifford. What's his first name? Jake Clifford. Yeah. So yeah. Look out.
and thanks for reminding me. In Tully, the girl Kim Carroll, represented Australia in the female soccer team.
That's right.
So and round ball again. We have a move and a second. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, any further general business? No more? Okay, we now move into confidential, and would somebody move that we do that? Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
We have a toilet break.
councillors and staff, I'm going to suspend standing orders now for a very special presentation to Sue Pollard, who has been a caterer with the former Cardwell Council and the current Cassowary Coast Regional Council for over 25 years. I've had the privilege of working alongside Sue for the last 12 years since amalgamation, 2008, and she's done a lot of good work looking after my waistline. Great cook, great caterer, and Councillor Ian Rule, who used to take home a doggy bag from council meetings, asked me to convey to you your specialty was the pea and ham soup. I don't concur. I think your egg and lettuce sandwiches are state of the art, and all the councillors would like to wish you, and the staff would like to wish you all the best of health, wealth and happiness for your future years in retirement. And I know you're not going to be fully retired because you're involved in the Red Cross and so many other activities in the town of Tully. So, Sue, on behalf of council and staff, I'd like to present you this lovely certificate of recognition, 25 years service. And there's something very special in there as well for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. Gott, would you like to say a few words on behalf of the staff, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As the council and staff are aware, sometimes it's difficult to stay on schedule with council meetings. So I really want to compliment Sue on her resilience and having the capacity to work around the meeting schedules over the last several years. And on a very personal note, she looked after my keto requirements when I was in that. Well, I'm still in that position actually. So on a personal note, I thank you for that, and on behalf of all of the staff, congratulations for your lengthy and excellent service, and thank you so much, Sue.
Fellow councillors, your waistline's also been looked after, so would you like to make a few complimentary words to Sue, please? Councillor Farinelli.
It's very sad that I don't get to eat your date slice in this term, I can tell you. I was so lucky in the period between 2012 and 16 to have you prepare meals for us, and you were very kind always to share your recipes with me, and I'm going to tell you, I still make them to this day, especially your date slice. It is absolutely, that's probably the highlight for me. But I will say I concur with ex-councillor Rule. Yeah, your pea and ham soup was next level as well.
Thank you, Kylie.
Thanks, Councillor Farinelli. Councillor Chewy.
Yes, congratulations, Sue. I used to attend the meetings just as a member of public, so on behalf of the public that attended your meetings, I purposely did not have breakfast on council meeting days, knowing that I could come and eat some of Sue Pollard's lovely goodies on the table. So congratulations and thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Chewy. Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, yes. I also, on behalf of the community, would like to thank you for all your services, Sue. You'll be sadly missed.
Councillor Baines.
Sue, thank you. I cannot blame you for my expanding waistline solely, but I will say when temptation got to me and your food was on the table, I could not say no. And yeah, the date slice, I was always going back for 2 or 3 or 4. So good luck in the future. And I know we'll see you around the community groups because you're still very active. And thank you so much, and I'll work on my waistline all by myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Any further comments from councillors? If not, congratulations, Sue, and enjoy your retirement. And as Councillor Baines said, we'll see you around the Tully Township for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sue.
Would you like to say a few words, Sue?
I would just like to thank you all very much. I would like to say I have thoroughly enjoyed my 25 years here. I've seen some people come and go, and I'd like to wish you all very well in your future years as well. I've met some very nice councillors and staff. I've seen a lot of people come and go, and I think you'll enjoy your time here as well. So that's all I'd like to say, and good luck to you all.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks,
Thank
Sue.
you. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you.
Mr. Gott. Yep, we resume standing orders, and would somebody move that we go into committee for the confidential, please? Move into committee, Councillor Barnes, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, staff, would somebody move that we now go back into committee, please? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We deal with item 8.1, request for COVID sewerage charge concession.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to leave the room for a conflict of interest.
Thank you. Councillor Pervin?
Mr Mayor, I also have a conflict of interest in 8.1 and so will leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Over to Ms Fick. Present the report.
Recommendation that Council either approve the request for the sewage charge concession as per the reasons outlined in the report in section 5.4E of the COVID-19 financial hardship policy, or 2, do not approve the request by the owners as the property does not meet the land use category eligible for a concession.
I'll move recommendation .point 1, approve the request for the sewage charge concession as per the reasons outlined in the report. Do I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Millwood. Any further comment, councillors? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Ms Vick. Councillor Pervin and Councillor Farinelli have returned to the table, and Mr Castle will now present 8.2, expressions of interest on the 1 Mile Creek dredging. Mr Castle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors, Mr Gott. I put before council today a recommendation for the expression of interest 1 Mile Creek and Port Hinchinbrook rehabilitation of all tides access. A recent expression of interest invited the suitably qualified and experienced contractors to present EOIs for this particular project. The recommendation before council is that council select the following suitably qualified contractors to progress possible engagement in relation to the dredging of 1 Mile Creek. Those contractors being Burden Queensland Proprietary Limited, River Glen Dredging Proprietary Limited and MGN Civil Proprietary Limited. And furthermore, that council pay the $15,000 in fees to each contractor to deliver suitable dredging plans and a fixed price for council's consideration.
Any questions for the officer? Councillor Farinelli.
I just feel the need to speak and say that I have great concerns over the project. I know that it's been a long-standing issue, Mr Mayor, but there's still so many questions, and we're being asked to fund $15,000 towards the 3 potential contractors, knowing that only one of those plans is actually going to be taken up, so 2 will be funded for nothing. And I understand the explanation given to me, but the concern I have is that there's no guarantee once that happens and the plans get put forward that we will receive the money that's been suggested. And given the fact that a media release has been made just as I think it was today, that there is a possible commitment for $2.5 million to dredge 1 Mile Creek, with Ports North assuming control, that would take away potential future costs for council, which is something I have a concern for. So just indicating there's too many variables and too many concerns I have with regards to this recommendation, so I won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further comments, Councillor? Councillor Barnes.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, I can accept those points made by Councillor Farinelli, but I'd like it brought to the attention that these $15,000 are still within council guidelines brought down by the previous council, $100,000 that they brought through in their budget, and this is a requirement of receiving the 1.5 million. We had all the studies to do and all our staff and wages. It was a requirement to get the 1.5. So I'm going to vote in. I'm going to talk in favour of the project. I think it's so much needed for our Coast Guard and our fishing. As we are aware, we have 4,000 boats in our shire, and seeing Cardwell is the gateway to our shire, I think it's so important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further comments, councillors? The other important part of this proposal is that it should be a partnership, and I think council needs to have some skin in the game. We need to be prepared to fund the business case, to make the project shovel ready, to actually win the money that the state and federal government might be offering. It's okay for the local candidate, Scott Piper, to say if he's elected he'll offer $2.5 million and get Ports North to take over the future dredging, but they've got to win that election first, otherwise they can't put the money on the table. So I'll be voting in favour of the recommendation because I believe we need to partner with the next two levels of government, and we need to have some skin in the game, and we need to give our staff some confidence to get these three people that we're going to award this tender to today to go out and get a business case worded up, ready, so we can attract that external funding. Councillor Millwood.
Through the chair, yes, I'd just like to say, so having the money on the table, I just want to make people aware that the $1.5 million that was previously promised isn't actually money on the table. It still has to be applied for. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood, and you're correct. And part of this process of awarding the 3 lots of 15,000 is part of our responsibility to attract that $1.5 million. If we don't do this work now, we don't have any chance of getting that $1.5 million. This is part of the deal. We've got to get the business case up and running, and these are the three best in the field of dredging. We know their backgrounds, and we've gone to the best in the business to put the business case together to attract state and federal funding for this project. We don't want ratepayers' money used on it. You're dead right. Any further comments? Councillor Farinelli.
Mr. Mayor, just with regards to having skin in the game, I think we've got to be very careful when we have skin in the game that it doesn't end up falling back as a responsibility onto the ratepayers. At this stage, the indication is for potential $1.5 million to dredge 1 Mile Creek. At this stage, we don't know what area of 1 Mile Creek is going to fall within that funding. We also have no idea, even if we do dredge that, how long that funding of $1.5 million in dredging is actually going to last. And from indication and discussions, it's been basically suggested to me, well, we should get at least 2 years out of it. Well, after 2 years, what happens then? Is the government going to continue to come forward with money to dredge 1 Mile Creek? Or because council has skin in the game, is that going to be a fall back on the ratepayers as a responsibility to continue what we started?
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further comments, councillors? I'll put the recommendation to the vote. Somebody prepared to move it, please, first. Councillor Barnes, Councillor Baines. All in favour? So Councillor Barnes, Councillor Chewy, Councillor Baines, Councillor Nolan and Councillor Pervin in favour. Against? Councillor Farinelli and Councillor Millwood against. That's carried 5-2. Thank you. We move on to item 8.3, the contract for the Innisfail Bowls Club. Mr. Castle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I put before Council today the consideration for the recommendation that Council award contract COW 44.
Thank you, Mr. God. The Innisfail Bowls Club slope rectification to Mega Constructions for a lump sum of $810,573.54, and that Council note that the additional project cost beyond construction and green replacement. So the contract is for stabilisation works on the top of that slope to protect the Bowls Club and the bowling green asset that sit on the land currently. Thank you.
Any questions for the officer, councillors? Councillor Farinelli.
Through the Mayor and to Mr. Castle, we've had some discussions yesterday. Very important that I mean, the Bowls Club is a very important community place, and it's great that we're actually doing this work to help safeguard their future. What is of importance to me, though, is it's not actually a council facility, and it's not on council land. It's a private facility, and it's great we've got this money to help safeguard their future. But the item that does concern me is that should the project exceed the level of approved funding, council will need to meet the additional costs from within its operational budget. I will be supporting the report, and I'm putting my faith and trust in you in helping to deliver this project on time and on money. No pressure. But yeah, I think it's just very important that we're mindful of our operational budget is pretty tight. There's not a lot of money out there I'm hoping beyond hope that you can deliver this on time and on money for us. No pressure.
Thank you, Councillor Farinelli. Any further comments, councillors? Not moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Millwood. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to a close of today's meeting. Thank you.